Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gemma and I'm coming to you from my home in Devon in the southwest of England. This channel is predominantly about making, so that's knitting, crochet. Recently there's been some sewing, gardening as I craft my perfect family home here in the southwest. So this video is slightly different. It's a recap of everything I made in 2024. I don't always do these videos. However, given the influx of new viewers and subscribers over the past couple of months, thank you again. That's just amazing. Joining my existing subscribers who've been with me for a while, I thought that it would be a good opportunity to just catch everyone up on what's happened in the past year making wise and start 2025 with us all kind of at the same point, if that makes sense. But yeah, so first of all, I hope you've had a lovely Christmas season, whether you celebrate or don't celebrate. I hope it's been cozy and filled with making and all the things that bring you joy. Love to hear how your festive makes went. If there was anything particular that you enjoyed over the festive period, I'd love to know. Do drop me a comment below. So I know that from my Whip Walk of Shame video, there were some, I'm not going to say concerns because that's not quite the right word, but there was wondering as to how making in the way that I make, with having so many works in progress on the go, do you get anything finished? And it turns out I do. In 2024, I finished 46 projects, and that's just knitting and crochet. That is not counting sewing or homey crafts or any of the other bits I've done. So I don't think that's too shabby, really. So of my 46 finished objects, 19 were socks. There were 4 hats, 2 cowls, 2 headbands, 1 throw, 1 shawl, 1 pair of mitts, 4 toys, 3 washcloths, 8 children's garments and 1 adult garment. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm not going to take you through all 46 as a play-by-play. I'm going to have a couple of slideshows of bits that I've done with the titles and things on the screen for you. So we're going to start with socks, get those out of the way, and then we've really broken the back of the things that I've made. Yeah, so all the socks, apart from Jude's boot socks, were vanilla. And vanilla, if you're new to sock knitting, basically means perfectly plain. So you do a 1x1 or a 2x2 rib, stocking stitch cuff, and then your chosen heel. Typically, it's a heel flap and gusset, but not always. You can substitute any heel you like. Stocking stitch foot and your typical toe, your toe of choice. So it's perfectly plain. Nothing particularly special to write home about. Now, I love vanilla socks because I've got the pattern memorized, and I've got the pattern memorized for 4 different members of my family now. So I've got my standard socks, my son's standard socks, my husband's and Jude's. Oh, and my dad's actually. I do sometimes have to check back on dad's, but more or less I know exactly what I'm doing, which makes them a really fun project to do. So these 19 pairs are a range of 4-ply, DK, children's and adults, and I very much hope that you enjoy. So I've knit a lot of children's garments this year. I knit quite a lot for my son. I've done a sample project, and there were 3 babies that turned up this year as well in fairly quick succession. So the one I'm going to talk about first is arguably the one that I'm proudest of. It took me the longest. It took me from summer 2023 until November 2024. And that was the Chime baby cardigan, which is originally a pattern by Martin Story for Rowan, published in Bloom Books, and it only goes up to 9 to 12 months. Now, this is absolutely fine, but my friend saw the one I'd made for my son hanging up in the shop that I used to run, and he expressed a desire to have one exactly the same for his grandson, who was born on the same day as my son. Now, in theory, this is absolutely fine. It's not a problem at all. But our boys were already 1.5 by this point, racing towards 2. And as I've said, the pattern stopped at 9 to 12 months. So it meant regrading it myself and making it bigger. And I've never done anything like that before. So it was quite a nerve-wracking experience. However, after an amount of time, I got it done, and it arrived with my friend's grandson in time for Christmas. He says it's a perfect fit. Looking at the picture that he sent me, think he might not get too long out of it, but never mind. We'll just leave it at that. He loves it, and it's fine. My one regret with this project is the number of buttons. Now, the picture I'm about to show you is my son modelling it. I'm not putting a picture of my friend's grandson on YouTube. That's just not what we do. So the picture is my son modelling it. And as you can see, there are lots of buttons. There are 10 in total. And that is my one regret, is that I didn't adjust the button spacing. Because although it is a bigger cardigan and the 9 to 12 months had 7 buttons, I don't think there was really a need to go up to 10. I probably could have got away with 8. But it came down to confidence, experience, and time. Those 3 factors stopped me doing that. So I am so proud of this project. I knit it in Rowan Summerlight Cotton DK. It is not a yarn that I would be able to purchase for a garment now in my current situation, but at the time I was working as the manager of a yarn shop and I had a great discount, and that made it within my reach. Would I make this garment again? Absolutely not. I loved it. I loved the finished look of the piece. I think our boys look really sweet in them, but it's had its day. I'm not a great one for reknitting patterns anyway, apart from vanilla socks and flax jumpers. They are my 2 absolute go-tos. But to reknit it again, I would have to grade it again. I didn't make any notes on what I did. I did it really roughly. I basically tried to work out how many stitches. I looked at the gauge, how many stitches per inch. I looked at the rough guidelines for a 3-year-old, roughly worked out how many extra stitches I needed to cast on, and also as I went, measured it up against my son in the vague hope that our boys were a similar size, which is not an exact science, but it seemed to have worked this time. But yeah, so I'm really pleased with it. I'm really pleased. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the one adult garment that I completed this year, which is the granny square jumper. This is a recent finish, so bear with me if you've seen this recently. I'm going to be using the footage of that jumper from a previous video. So this was, again, meant to be a quick project. So many of my projects are like, oh yeah, that's easy. I'll be able to do that really quickly. It's dead simple. And arguably it was dead simple. It was 4 granny squares. 2 were 24 rounds and 2 were 13 rounds. I could have done that in a couple of evenings. I don't know why it took me so long. The whole thing's ridiculous, but there we are. It's done. That's the main thing. So it's a pattern by Hanjan Crochet. Her patterns are fabulous. Actually, some of her patterns have recently been ripped off by Shein. So there we go. There's lots of indie makers that's happening too. And it's a granny square jumper, and it's ideal for new crocheters, which is partly why I chose it. The granny square was having a bit of a resurgence. We had this gorgeous yarn, the Elements DK by West Yorkshire Spinners, which is a mix of merino and tencel, which is a plant fibre. Lovely drape, lovely sheen, beautiful colour palette, and I thought that's what I want to do. Again, it took me over a year. I just stopped working on anything that came from my old life, I think. I think that's kind of what happened. But I'm really pleased with it. It's really simple. I did the smallest size because it was for a sample, Now, when I ran the shop, I do want to say this, I moved away from smallest size samples. When I got there were some samples in the shop, but they were all the smallest size. And I felt that really wasn't very representative of A, our clientele, or B, the knitting community as a whole and crochet community as a whole. So I thought, well, hang the expense. We might as well do the sample minimum mid-size. And we also had some samples that were done for the larger sizes as well. So what I had was friends in the community who knit, and we kind of did a swap. So we had friends would choose a pattern, choose the colour yarn they wanted to do it in, choose their size. We would give them the yarn. They would make the sample, send it back to the shop. We would use it as a sample, and then after 6 months, a year, whatever the agreement was, it would be returned to them and belong to them. It was a great way of getting samples for us when realistically we couldn't foot the bill for the yarn and the time for it to be made. And for people who are friends of the shop who wanted to volunteer for this, to get garments that might be out of their reach to pay by the yarn originally, or a bit of a splurge. So, for example, we had, I think, 52 or 54-inch bust vest from Rowan, and it just looks amazing. And that was done entirely in felted tweed. And that will go back to the person who made it. And it works brilliantly for us because having the range of samples makes it easier for people to imagine themselves in the garments, and people could try them on. And as a yarn shop, we sold so many yarn packs to go with those patterns for the ones we had samples for. So I was very, very grateful to my friends and the members of the community that volunteered for this kind of exchange. And yeah, but although I've just said this one was the smallest size because it was a sample, it was deliberate in that we didn't have many smallest sizes anymore. And a lot of the people coming in who were starting to crochet, we were seeing were being teens, and their demographic was typically the pubescent. So they're fitting into the smallest sizes, and that's what they would want. So it worked both ways. It worked financially, it worked time. In theory, it didn't work at all because it took me forever, and it worked for our demographic. So the pattern itself was really simple. In theory, it shouldn't have taken me very long. I would really recommend this to a beginner crocheter. And of course, I love the yarn too, available from theyarndispensary.co.uk. Right, okay, so I'm now going to move on to flaxes. I don't have a picture of the sample flax I did in Colour Lab Aran, which is from West Yorkshire Spinners. I did the first size in an orange for Wool on the X. So I don't have that to show you, but I do have my other two flaxes that I knit this year. Only two. Don't know what's going on. The first was Robin's birthday flax. Now this is in yarn that I dyed when Robin was still a bump. I just wanted to speckle it and do rainbow speckles, and I think I achieved that quite nicely. I'm really pleased with it. It's the age 2 to 4, but I do add on a good inch to inch and a half, possibly 2 inches each time to the length, because it recommends for his age, I think it was like 8 or 7 inches before the rib, and I do 9 or 9.5, something like that. I add it on. So I gave this to him for his birthday. The yarn base was supplied to me by Jem of the Little Grey Girl. It was a base she didn't want to carry, and she gave me 2 skeins, so I dyed it up and knit this for Robin. I actually had a little bit left over, which was nice. So yeah, that went out really well. I'm really happy with that. The second flax, and the flaxes are by Tin Can Knits, by the way. They're a free pattern. They go from birth to 5XL adult. You've got the flax worsted, the flax DK, and the flax light, which is flax floor play. This one I'm really chuffed with. This is a scrappy flax. So this is made with leftovers from 4 of the flax sweaters that I'd already made for my son out of Rowan Superwash Merino worsted, pure wool. Rowan Superwash pure wool. That's it. That's the one. So yeah, so I'd made these. So this was the very first one I made, the mustard. Then I made the sage, and then the pale blue, and the red was his Christmas one last year, I think. So I had enough leftovers just about from all of them to make him a scrappy 2-4 flax, and I just think that works so well. I'm so happy with it. You can't even see now the slightly dodgy bit on the sleeve. So I ran out of the sage green. I think, actually, no, if you look closely enough, you might be able to. I ran out of the sage green. So what I did was I frogged a pair of mittens that I had knit for Robin, because originally I'd used the leftovers of the green flax to make mittens for him for that winter, but he wasn't wearing them anymore. So I frogged one of those to get enough yarn to just do this final stripe. But yeah, I think it works out really, really nicely. He looks super cute in it, and I'm just really happy. Okay, so the next ones, it's all pictures. So I did a vest for my husband's cousin's son for his birthday this year. I had some lovely yarn. I can't remember the name of it now. Can't remember anything about it now. It's ridiculous. I might have the details on Ravelry, and if I do, I'll put them here or in the description box. I'll put them somewhere for you. And I just did my go-to Stylecraft vest, which was knit in pieces. And I was halfway through knitting it, and I thought, why on earth am I doing this? There are so many patterns in the round, but it's funny, when it comes to baby knits, I often revert back to the patterns that I've been using for years, which are the pieced patterns from the Old English pattern houses. So Serdar and Rowan and UK Hand Knitters Association and King Cole, which are typically all done in pieces. And I don't know why I do that, because I hate knitting in pieces now. Well, hate's a very strong word. It's not my preferred method, put it that way. Yeah. And I was partway through and I thought, why the blazes am I doing this? How ridiculous. So I knit it in a cotton blend because it's a late spring birthday. So I wanted him to be able to wear it over the summer. And so I knit that for him. And my son saw it and said, I want one. Is it for me? Is it for me? And it was the first time he actually actively asked me to make him something. So it was a bit of a moment. And I thought, yeah, but you're not having this one. So I took him into my bedroom, which is where all my yarn was. And he went, look, it's Mummy's yarn. And chose himself, luckily, the yarn I'd already bought for this purpose. And it was James C. Brett Stonewash DK. And it's beautiful. I absolutely love it. I really, really love this project. And what I did was the peanut vest, which again is a Tin Can Knits pattern. This is a little bit of a Tin Can Knits appreciation episode, as you will see, but there we are. I omitted the colour work because I was just doing it in this variegated yarn. It's 100% acrylic. It's really nice. I think it's about £3.40 a ball, something like that. I actually only needed one ball. According to the maths, I should have needed two, but I got a gauge, so I don't quite know what went wrong there. But I didn't dip into the second ball at all and made this very pretty vest. There was a moment where I got very, very confused because the pattern says knit until, because it's bottom up in the round. And the pattern says knit until measures X from cast on edge. And I thought, that's like that big. That's going to be like a cropped vest. What's going on? And then I realised that I was being a banana, because the next instructions were follow colourwork chart, knit until. So because I was cutting out the colourwork, I could just ignore that and knit the full length of the vest. So that's what I did. And I'm really, really pleased with it. And I've actually given that one to my nephew. Robin, when I finished it, wasn't at all interested. Sorry about all the jump cuts. My cat keeps coming in and meowing and I have to keep shooing him out. He's being ridiculous. Anyway, where was I? When I finished this peanut vest, Robin wasn't interested in trying it on in the slightest and hasn't tried it on yet. So what I decided to do was give it to my nephew for his Christmas present, because I actually was going to knit him one as well. So I've got the one that I did for Robin that I've now given to my nephew, and I've got a ball ready, which I've shown you in the stash tour video. I've got a ball ready to do Robin one for next summer as well. So there we are. There's that one. I really like it. I don't think you need the colour work if you've got a variegated yarn. It's a nice simple colour work pattern, however, and I should imagine would be a really good first foray into colour work knitting. Okay, so 2 more now to talk about. The first is the Cable Baby Sweater by Lara Simonson. I got this from Ravelry, and I did this for my niece for her Welcome to the World gift. But because these babies were all very inconsiderately born in the height of summer, I chose to do the 6 to 12 month size. And yeah, I gave that to her for Christmas along with her brother's peanut vest. And she looks absolutely adorable in it. I'm so pleased. I do have another one on the needles for the third baby that arrived in summer, and that is definitely going to be a priority for 2025, getting that one done, because otherwise the little one won't fit in it. And I really enjoyed the pattern as well. It was a little bit jingle all the way to start with, because you need so many stitch markers to set up for in the round. So this pattern is done top down in the round. You need a gazillion and one stitch markers, because you've got the markers for your raglan increasing, your markers for your cables on your yoke, you've got your markers for your cables at the front. So there's a lot going on when you first cast on, because you don't have that many stitches and a lot of stitch markers per stitch, I guess. The stitch marker to stitches ratio is, yeah. However, once you get into the swing of it, you really don't need them for that long. And I did find myself discarding stitch markers a little bit willy-nilly, but it worked out. I use Stylecraft Love You, which is a cotton blend, and it's just lovely to work with. I did feel my fingers felt a bit strange working with it. It felt a bit, I don't know, was it that one or was it a different one? No, it was the King Cole that felt a bit strange. Anyway, for full details, you can look back on my previous videos. I'm not going to go all the way through the projects now. But yeah, I would, again, recommend that. And it's top down in the round. It's really lovely. My final garment that I want to talk to you about, and it was the one I did first, was the Over the Ocean kids version by Kat Crafty Knits. Kat's a friend of mine. She's an up-and-coming designer. I feel kind of like she's up and come. She's had patterns in magazines, she's released children's and adults garments and accessories, and she does really interesting things with texture and design. I really like it. She did the Kinsey beanie, which has the increases in the kind of cable. Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. So the opportunity to test the Over the Ocean kids version, because she was going to release it herself, came about at the very start of 2024, and we just found out that my husband's littlest brother's girlfriend was expecting, and of course I wanted to make them something. This was quite a special project because I dyed the yarn as well. So I used Merino DK and I dyed it in the Babacom colourway, again, which is special because the family are all from around here. And we didn't know the gender, and I thought it'd be pretty good for unisex. As it happens, it was a little boy, and it just looks beautiful. And yeah, so I went from bare yarn to finished sweater, and I think I've got a little clip I can put in here for you. I really loved doing this pattern. Although it's an all-over texture, it's really rhythmical once you get into it. It's definitely easier to do the twists one way than the other, but Kat's got great tutorials and her pattern explains things very well. She's also got an app coming out that she's developed with her husband. I don't know much about it. It's my great shame. We haven't actually caught up in ages. But I'll see if I can find out a bit more about it and either put it in the description or I'll talk about it another time. But that's basically designed to help you with your knitting. So those are the 9 garments that I completed in 2024. So 8 children's garments and 1 crocheted adult garment, and all of them, I think, bar the crocheted one, was started and finished in 2024. Okay, we're going to go on to accessories now, and again I'm going to put a little slideshow on here for you. There are hats, mitts, a couple of cowls and a couple of headbands, and I hope you enjoy that, and I'll see you back here in a minute for the last little bit. there, we're on the final 3 projects that I'm going to show. So I do have 2 dishcloths and a baby washcloth, but the dishcloths have already been used, so I'm not going to show you those, although they are wearing up really, really well. And the baby cloth has gone to a gift, so I can't show you that. And I didn't take a picture of it because it's just a square of stocking stitch, and I didn't think it was worth taking a picture of, frankly. So, toys. I knit 3 dinosaur toys from a kit. This one is blind, it hasn't got any eyes still. It's the Stegosaurus. And this is a Triceratops. He looks very happy and smiley. And this was from a kit from Let's Knit magazine. They were quite sweet to make. I kind of got into toy making after I did the penguin and the Christmas pudding in 2023 for Vlogmas. Needless to say, I have scratched that itch. I don't feel any desire to cast on any toys anytime soon. My little one loved them. This is actually in hand-dyed yarn, Fibre Space DK. It's a bit posh. And the rest is from the kit. And they're very sweet. There is a Brachiosaurus, but I can't find it. And the final one, and I'm sure this won't be my last, is Natty the Gnome. He was the mystery gnome along to celebrate Sarah's book. Sarah is Imagined Landscapes, and she's known for the gnomes. To celebrate her book coming out with Search Press, the company that I work for. And I joined in just as a fan with the make-along, made Natty the Gnome. And I used a kit that was done for the gnomes a couple of years ago by Giddy Yarns, who has been, and I think continues to be, one of the named dyers for the Imagined Landscapes knit-alongs. He was my first gnome. I found him incredibly satisfying to make. I don't think he's going to be my last. My son absolutely loves gnomes and gonks. The book is stunning and has some really beautiful patterns in. And what's lovely is they use lots of different techniques. So there's cables and all sorts of things going on in there. So if you just want a little amuse-bouche, as it were, of a technique, then the gnome is a good way to go. So there you have it, all 46 projects that I finished in 2024. I set myself no targets for the year. I actually had a resolution-free year this year, which I found really liberating, and my productivity went up. So I think that might be the way to go for 2025. For the Ravelry challenge, you have to set yourself, in order to kind of track it, I think you have to say we'll do 1, or did I say 0 initially? I can't remember. Anyway, I did 46 projects when I hadn't even committed to 1, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Going into, now this is the big question, isn't it? Going into 2025, how many works in progress am I taking with me? So if you saw my Whip Walk of Shame, at the time I had 40, I think we worked out, and the final count. I frogged some, I finished some, and I quite like this. I'm taking 25 works in progress into 2025 with me. How about that? Sounds good, doesn't it? Have a lovely new year, and I will see you in 2025. Take care. Bye.